Hello and welcome to Tippcast with myself, Shane Stapleton, joined as ever by sports editor of the Nenagh Guardian, Shane Brophy. Shane, no better place to start than the back page of the Nenagh Guardian this week, and surprise, what you led off with, it had to be the minors.
Oh yeah, sure, a great photograph there of Senan Butler celebrating after getting the winning goal. Look, it was just it was a tonic, like a win, like a count, like as James Woodlock said afterwards, and he said this to the players beforehand that the county needs it, and they got it really. It was brilliant. The only disappointing was really the crowd was so small. You expected Galway would probably struggle to travel after being at a senior match the day before, but I would have thought maybe after the Munster final and the manner of the win, and we would have got a few more Tip supporters to the game, and it just didn't happen. I'd say there wasn't 3,000 people there on Sunday, 2:00, perfect time for a game. So not on telly. So it was an opportunity missed there. And I just hope the fan base get in behind them, because the last thing Tip want is to be outnumbered 3 or 4 to 1 in Nolan Park, which is what could happen. And like, you would want to be going into the last 10 or 15 minutes of that final if tight, and there were 16, 17-year-olds, and you could have 15, 16,000 Offaly supporters there, and that makes a difference. Makes it out, especially for young lads.
Yeah, I suppose if you're to stick to the positives anyway of Tipperary, I mean, what a performance! The drama that this team has provided this year. Geez, I'd say James Woodlock is struggling to stand up straight after what his team has produced and going to penalties, winning this way, being like 5 or 6 points ahead. Then Galway get ahead. Then Tip get ahead, and then that late goal that Tom Delaney sets up for Butler. Like, it was brilliant stuff.
Yeah, I know. It was one of those games where I knew going down I was going to get a good game. You know, you knew that there was two teams that knew they were good. Not a cocky in a way, but they knew they were, you know, you were seeing they're going to be teams laden with talent, and they produced a brilliant game. Like, it was just like, I couldn't get over this quality the first half, 2-11 to 1-13, and then Owen Horgan had pulled off a few saves. The Galway keeper pulled off a few saves as well. Like, just, yeah, both forward lines were really on top. And I suppose the key was that I thought Tipperary to be a point down at half time were in a great position, because Galway had dominated the ball. And as James Woodlock said afterwards, the work rate probably wasn't high enough in that first half. Second half, they upped the work rate. The Galway inside forwards, Nyland and Burke and Dolphin, were starved of possession, because our midfield and the hot forward line were really getting after the boys that were sending the ball in, which meant Nyland and Burke were stifled. But then at the other end, Joe Egan and Paddy McCormack really came into it. Tom Delaney had a powerful second half. He's a really classy forward. Like, he just doesn't need much space to turn something to score. And then he's unselfish as well, the way he set up the pass for the last goal for Senan Butler. But it was just, I suppose, it would have been sickening if Tip had lost the game. They were the better team. I think Galway were magnanimous at that afterwards, but it could have gone oh so wrong. Like, Tip, if they hadn't found a way to win that game at the very end, like, just the composure they showed, like, when they went a point down, like the way they worked to equalise and score, like, no panic. It wasn't about hoofing the ball into the forward line and hope for the best. They used the ball brilliantly, worked it out to Adam Daly to score from the wing. And then, complete contrast then for the lead score for Joe Egan. I suppose Galway made a mistake going short with the puck out, and of course, inevitably, Guy fumbles the ball and Tipper on him like a shot, turned him over and over the bar, and of course defended out the last play well to set up for a goal. It was just, there's something special about this group, but not only their quality of hurling, but they're just never say die approach. As I said, they don't tend to panic even when the scoreline is going against them. That happened right from night one against Waterford, where they fell 6 points down after about 10 minutes. Like, you said, God, they're going to be steamrolled here. Just worked their way into the game, and same in the Munster final. They're just, in fairness to James Woodlock, they're a well-coached group, and I think regardless of what happens in the All-Ireland final, I think James deserves an awful lot of credit, because he was getting pilloried last year after the way they exited the championship, and they looked poorly prepared, badly organised. But he learned from his mistakes last year, and his manager team that came back, and like they're a complete contrast this year.
They certainly are. And just to go back over the players who did the score. Now, I know you said Tom Delaney is selfless. I definitely don't think he's selfless. I think he's a shoot on sight sort of a player.
No,
but his quality.
but he won't. If the shot is not on, he won't take it. Like I'd say safely, his wides tally is very low. He really only shoots when he knows there's a fair chance of him scoring.
I think he's brilliant now, by the way, just in case that somehow comes across as I'm not saying, like his quality. And like the reason that I'm really impressed is he put up that tally of, was it 214 or something ridiculous like that again? Huh?
112 from play against
Waterford. From play, just a ridiculous tally against Waterford. Then he goes out, doesn't score in the Munster final, and comes back and scores 6 from play here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a fair sign of a player. And then obviously setting up the goal at the end, which finished off the game. So he got 6. Joe Egan and Adam Daly got 1-3 apiece. Paddy McCormick with 4 points. Damien Corbett with 3. And Senna Butler with a goal, and other players pitching in as well. Aaron Nyland did the bulk of the scoring for Galway. Like 2-11, 2-4 that from play. Like he's going to be a serious player and has another year. Yeah, he's still underage. It's ridiculous. Conor Burke with 5 points. And it was just those 2 goals of a shot from Nyland and Dolphin. It's a good thing in a way for Tipperary to have faced that test, to be staring down the barrel of the gun and being able to react. But you have to say, and like this counts as well for Brendan Cummins and the other 20 team, it just shows what can be done if you really focus on a game plan. Like these 2 Tipperary teams at these age levels, you can see there's a plan. You can see they're working the ball around. Obviously, players will take shots now and again, but it just shows that you can have a team that's organised well and all pulling in the one direction, all tackling as a unit, which, is in stark contrast to the senior team at the moment. But it does show what can be done in a very short space of time with the right preparation.
Definitely so. And look, I would always think that I think we're a lot like Kerry footballers, where if the seniors are not going well, it doesn't matter what everything else is going on. And I think you can always have, you can have 1 or 2 down years, but like sometimes it doesn't happen. Maybe you have a weak crop, maybe a certain year, maybe you could have a poor manager team one year that maybe doesn't get the best out of maybe a decent crop. It's all a bit of I wouldn't say luck, but you have to do your due diligence in terms of what you have really on the playing side and the management side. And look, we've seen it before. Like Liam Cahill had an awful time in his first year as Tip minor manager in 2014. Like 2 heavy defeats. You'd say, God, he's not up to it. Look at what he's done since. Like James Woodlock, an awful year last year, come back stronger. You'd like to think maybe you give Colin Bonner the benefit of the doubt, but like senior level is harder to maybe rectify your mistakes from one year to the other. Like so, but I just do think like it shows you like when we were on the same wavelength as Editor County in terms of how we use the ball. Like we will always have ball players. I always think that the modern way of hurling, where you have to use the ball, that's made for Tipperary because it probably takes a lot of the ball winning aspects of hurling out, which is probably our weakest trait. But I would say, looking at our minors like Paddy McCormick, Joe Egan, well able to win their own ball, you would say. Like I think Paddy McCormick is an outstanding talent. He's an awful lot of traits of Gerard Hegarty. I would say he's that tall, I would say long stride sort of a hurler, but he can score as well. Like I'm not saying he's going to be now. I just think there's elements of Gerard in him. Like so, like, he's massive potential. Like so, but. I think great credit has got to go to, I think, everybody within this group of within from 14 to 17. I think I was just looking back to 2019 and the Tony Forrestal. Like there's an awful lot of between the Tony Forrestal and the Sonny Walsh team. I think there could be up to 20 players from that group are on that Tip minor panel now, and I think Offaly are carrying an awful lot more over, but I suppose Offaly's pool is shallower. For us to maybe retain 20 from 14 to 17 is actually pretty good work. Because I suppose we have a deeper pool of talent where maybe some guys come on a bit later, maybe through 15 and 16, and then they're stronger at 17. So look, I think it just shows you that for all the criticism sometimes our development squad process gets, it does, I think, get it right a lot more than it does than they get it wrong.
I was just looking through the panel there, and I think, on first count, I might have this right. Maybe I don't. Someone, I'm sure, will jump in and correct. But I think of the 19 players used against Galway, 18 different clubs are represented. Just as I'm just throwing my eye over here, there's 2 players from Knockavilla Kickham's, which is Owen Horgan and Adam Daly. But I think after that, it's different clubs across the board, which you'd have to say, I think that kind of suggests combing the length and breadth of the county for players. And no concerns overall, not from a fashionable club or whatever. I think that's a good sign that there's players been pulled in from all directions.
Yeah, I think it is that. I think it's up in the mid-20s, I think, total over the 35 squad panel. And I think I was just looking at the 24 that were tugged out last weekend. None of the 24 were from the dominant underage club in Tipperary, which is Durlas Oak, which I think is incredible. Like, they are so dominant.
It's almost strange.
They can't get one player in the top 24. I think it just shows you the I suppose just the way James Woodlock has approached it this year is that there's competition for places. It doesn't matter what club you're from or what. If you're good enough, you're going to play. It doesn't matter if you're from Durlas Oak or if you're from Ballyluby, Castlegrace, or Feathered, or maybe on some of the guys. Look, Care, Tom Delaney, like, they're only a junior club. Ballyluby, a junior club. Feathered, a junior club. Like, this is, I just shows you that, and I'd even add it up for. It's something maybe that the Tipperary underage football could learn. That's not to say that Tipperary minors or under 20s couldn't pull a star player out of an unfashionable hurling club, maybe from Allura or a Moneygall. Like, if you go looking hard enough, you'll find talent.
Yeah, no, look, brilliant talents can show up anywhere. I mean, all of these clubs, and this goes for every club in the country. There could be a hidden gem anywhere, and if
English,
yeah, exactly. Well, exactly, and like I remember talking to Nicky Brennan, of Kilkenny a few months back, and he was showing me the minor and under 20 panels there, and it's a lot of players from junior clubs and intermediate clubs also. And the big challenge, he was saying, will be bridging that gap between when they leave under 20 and they hit senior level. If they don't immediately go onto the senior panels, do they then, what's done to bridge the gap in the years where they're like 19, 20, 21, 22, so that they're ready to step up as senior intercounty players then? Yeah. Because if they end up going back to clubs where they don't get that level of preparation, there's a chance that they might never bridge the gap later on because of S&C and so on.
Yeah, I suppose, regardless of the I was actually, somebody from Galway was saying to me on Sunday, said the last thing Galway needs is actually to win another minor All-Ireland, because they're winning them so regularly, but it's after that they're struggling. So that maybe, I think under 20 is probably a better I would say signpost to where certain players will go on to senior. But I think I can agree with you. Of interest for me next year will be, I think this year's under 20 panel, there's a lot of them lads still eligible. So like Brendan Cummins is well loaded there, and he's not going to be able to take all these talented under 17s up straight away. So he'll be more or less cherry picking the lads with the greatest potential. And like you would, particularly I would point to some of those junior clubs like Care, Ballyluby, Feather, like they're maybe where the Tom Delaney's, Chris O'Donnell, Jack Williams, could they probably need the greatest support after this, if you know what I mean, because they're going to be playing at a lower probably level of adult hurling. I don't know whether to play B or C grade, or a lot of them, how strong they are. Maybe some of them are A grade underage teams that they're not lost. There will be the likes of maybe Sam O'Farrell, Nina and Paddy Bursley, they're going into senior clubs. Their development, that they're going to get good club hurling development, whereas maybe some of the younger lads will maybe need that bit extra, just in case the drop off maybe into in some of those clubs is a bit less. Like we see, like Tom Delaney has massive talent.
And I'm sure all these clubs realise that we're not talking down or certain.
No, it's just
all these clubs.
It's
the reality of it.
Yeah, and look, the more hype, the better, I suppose, those high profile underage players are. They will help drive on those clubs to newer heights. Like the better Tom Delaney gets as he goes up, that's going to help Care maybe, and then they'll maybe jump from junior to intermediate. Like they might never get to senior, but if you were saying a club like Care or Ballyluby or Feathered, if they jump from junior to intermediate, like that's a fair development for them. That they say that you don't have to be ending up senior to be be the bee's knees. Like it all depends on how the depth of the area you're picking from in terms of talent. Like I think ideally all clubs aspire to be senior, but it might not happen. Like, but look, we saw with Shane McGrath, he never not got higher than intermediate, but he still got to be a brilliant Tipperary senior hurler. Knew Conor O'Mahony as well. Look, Nicky English as well, and Nathan Cullen. I know back in the 80s was different. Like Nathan Cullen were able to play. I think West senior hurling like it was a bit different. Like, but I think definitely how these guys did kick on from 17, 18, 19, particularly the ones that maybe will have to wait to be called up to an under 20 panel. They mightn't come in next year, but it could be 2 years down the line. Like how they, how would you say, making sure that their development is tracked as well will be so important.
Yeah, keep the comments coming in here. Paul Tierney says, just brilliant from the minor squad, as important as ever, as they say. Sub Sen and Butler, crucial goal, and Sub McCarthy got us over the line in previous games. Yeah, that's definitely a great point there, the power of the panel. So keep those comments coming in. Offaly were very good against Clare on Friday night at Semple Stadium, and their long-range shooting, the likes of Dan Ravenhill, Adam Screeney in the corner, then closer to goal. I think he picked up 1-5, maybe there was a free or two in there. The fact that they were able to always have Clare at arm's length, and obviously Clare took Tipperary all the way to a penalty shootout. Yeah. Then they went and they had those games against Laois and Galway, so they had lots of games under their belt. It's a great sign of this Offaly team and where they're at if they can beat Clare and always just be that bit ahead.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. Like I still do think that. I think Tip in that Munster final, I think the way Clare set up in that game negated a lot of Tipperary's attack and threat. Like Clare, I suppose, were very compact in defence. Their half-back line sat back, their midfield sat back, which meant our forwards didn't have an awful lot of room to play into. Whereas
excellent cornerbacks as well in Clare.
Oh yeah, they do. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think Clare, particularly because Clare had already played Tip a few weeks beforehand in the group stage, and like they were able to adjust their setup. Whereas I think it was Tipperary were always going to be able to express themselves more against Galway. And look, against Offaly are a fine side. There's no doubt about it. I think it's amazing that you're always wary of transferring development squad form to minor form, but it's interesting to see that the Tony Forrestal finalists from 3 years ago are the minor finalists now. So it's interesting that Tip and Offaly's development it's continued apace. Look, it's going to be a brilliant final. Like Offaly are just all in behind this team. They have loads of talent, as say Ravenhill, Screeney. I think they're full back. I can't remember. Is it Mahan? I think he's.
I think his name is it James Mahan?
James Mahan, like he is a great bit of stuff. Like and Turgoyne, like wing back. Like they've loads of very, very exceptionally good players. And I think it's the one thing about Offaly we've learned over the years, when they get a good underage team, they always harvest the very best out of it. Because like they like we've seen it, like they've gone quiet for 20 years. Now they're rising again. And I was looking at the 87 All-Ireland minor final. The only time Tip and Offaly met in an All-Ireland final, where Offaly won. John Troy, Declan Pilkington, Brian Wheelahan. They got a team that loaded with players that went on to win. Johnny Dooley, Billy Dooley, like players that went on to win senior All-Irelands. Like so, like they're Offaly County, when they get a good crop underage, they tend to bring them through because like they have to, like the depth they're picking from is not as big as maybe a county like Tipperary. So look, I think Tipperary will have it all to do in the final. I think Tip will be favourites because they won the harder semi-final, and to beat Galway as it did was incredible. But like this is a different game. It's going to be, I'd be expecting easily over 20,000 people in Nolan Park. It's going to be a brilliant atmosphere that day.
Yeah, I'd say 20,000 Offaly people, and hopefully Tip will show up as well. As well, if you're interested in lots of build-up to this, on the other side of things with our game, we're doing a live show in Dooley's Hotel in Burr. So that's going to have a serious lineup with it. Kieran Carey, Richie Power, myself and Michael Verney, Cyril Farrell and Michael Dignan. So that's a €15 entry. If you do want to get a ticket, contact myself privately on Twitter at Shane Saint or Michael Verney at ML Verney. So that'll be a big one there. You can imagine the amount of mountain that'll go on at that one, Shane.
Oh yeah, sure. Look, it's great. Like I say, I'm I'm from Lura. I went to school in Offaly. Like it's sort of you sort of miss a bit Offaly having fallen back. You sort of missed a bit of banter up our way. Like you'd have it a bit with the Galway lads, but like with Galway so weak, you can't have a bit of a to and fro. Like I say, I spent 5 years in school in Banagher. 3 years Offaly got to an All Ireland winning 2, and Tipperary got to 1 final and lost. You can imagine how bad, how tough that was those 5 years when we never got to play each other, but Offaly Raw was better than us.
Yeah, that one had to hurt. Okay, so do you want to have a quick look back at the games from the weekend? Clare beating Wexford and Cork getting across the line. Losing against Galway narrowly enough. Neither game unbelievable, but both had very kind of nervy finales. And Clare's comeback, to be fair, I know you can sort of argue the toss on a few different things. Should it have been a black card? Was there square ball goals in different directions? The whole lot. But it was some comeback. It was. And
I wasn't surprised there was Clare had a hangover from the Munster final. I was just thinking it was just like that was, what was it, 80, 85, 90 minutes of pure adrenaline and the high. Like just knew 13 days wasn't going to be enough, and then you had all the rigmarole with Rory Hayes and Peter Duncan, and like I thought, like that was incredibly ruthless. 8 minutes, Rory, you're off. Like, and look,
and he played for the club the next day, so there's obviously it wasn't an injury thing.
No, and I couldn't believe when I heard that. Like, then Aaron Shanner played the club, like Rory Mounds, he played that. Like, I would have thought this late in the championship to allow guys back play with their clubs. I say fair play to Brian Lohan. I'm not sure many other club managers would have done the same. Like, so
I think
he sees the value in game time rather than maybe Molly Cotton and lads, and more maybe looking at the negative side of playing club games where maybe you potentially get injured. Like, you're the positive, you're getting 60 minutes under your belt. Like, so
I think it's good for those players' heads. I think
absolutely.
I saw someone was messaging me privately saying Aaron Shanner scored 3-5 for the club before being taken off. Now, I'm sure he wasn't taken off because he wasn't going well. I think that's brilliant for a player's head. Like, he comes on and scores 1-2 in the last, I suppose, including injury time, 16 or 17 minutes. Like, what a contribution for him. He's been kind of sitting very much. Yeah, and like, if you go back to last year, he was starting against Tipperary and other teams in the championship. Obviously, his shooting is a little bit erratic at times, but he came up with 1-2 here. A couple of his points were actually really impressive scores. Yeah. Imagine the confidence he has now. Look at some of the other players like Shane O'Donnell, Tony Kelly coming down the stretch, really good. Mark Rogers comes on, he makes a difference. Shane Meehan as well. All of a sudden, this Clare team are looking dangerous. Diarmuid Ryan's kicking on. There's a lot of players here that, you know, were young, talented players that are really quickly starting to fulfill it. Or other lads who are finding a second coming, like obviously John Conlon the last couple of years being centre back. David McInerney's finally able to get a decent run of staying fit. He's having a good old run. Cathal Malone obviously was a player that was fairly unheralded the last few years. They're very much getting the most of what they have here, which, you know, as a supporter is probably the main thing you want to ask from your team.
And like they have depth, like they have subs to bring on, like they have different subs coming on different days, making impact. And Mark Rogers is getting stronger. I think Aidan McCarthy getting very, very close to being he'll probably be on the subs bench the next day against Kilkenny. So look, I think there's nothing clear when they get to Croke Park they always seem to find another level when they get up there. Like they're the one team that's, I think they'll have the legs on Kilkenny. I just think they'll have the intensity and the pace for them. But I think it just shows you that Clare were a good bit better than Wexford if they were at it for most of the game. Like, it just showed, whatever it was, they just opened their shoulders towards the end. And like, I think if there was a fully fresh and focused Clare team, I think they would have won comfortably. It was like, you think Wexford, their second and third goals were slightly fortunate, like long balls. So sometimes they break for you, sometimes they break against you. Okay, I know they lost Rory O'Connor, and he was a loss in the first half, but like Wexford only scored 3-14. 17 scores in modern inter-county hurling is not a lot. Like, it's they're not going to win matches with many matches with 3-14. So I think for the looking forward, I think who is the team that has the potential to beat Kilkenny and beat Limerick, it was going to be Clare. I think for the long term, for the I suppose a good end to the championship, I think Clare surviving and coming through the manner they did I think sets them up very well.
Oh yeah, the buzz in the dressing room must be unreal after that. But I'm sure Kilkenny will be looking to drag him into a dogfight, pull him down underwater. So that I'd say that game will be skin and hair flying. It's been a fairly good first year for Darragh Egan. There's been a couple of heavy defeats here and there. A couple of results now that he won't be delighted with. I know it's only the Walsh Cup, but a heavy beating against Dublin one day, heavy loss to Waterford in the league semi-final, drawing with Westmeath. Not ideal. A couple of goalkeeping mistakes against Westmeath led to that draw, and goalkeeping mistake as well was fairly crucial here. But they lost Shane Reck towards the end of the game, and he had been doing a great job on Tony Kelly. They lost Damien Reck. Lee Chin was going around on one hamstring. Rory O'Connor suffered a leg injury in the first half. They're bringing Paul Morris in around the middle of the field or even the back line. So it just showed you that for Darragh Egan, any opportunity he had in terms of like winning this game, it was kind of taken away from him in a way too. So, you'd feel a little bit sorry for him from that point of view.
Oh, you would, yeah. But I think, look, I think he's now going into his second year. He's more aware of what he has, and he sits back and evaluates what he is a fuller picture of what he needs now going forward. I can look, in terms of injuries, look, it counted against him, but I suppose it's not a good look 3 years on that in that last 15 minutes when the pressure came on, a lot like in the Tip semi-final in 19. I know he wasn't involved he was on the other side of it, but Wexford wilted a bit. I even suspect if Aaron Shanahan's goal hadn't gone in, I think Clare would still have won it. I just thought it was just a tsunami that was coming at them, that they would still have picked them off for points coming down the stretch. There was just wave after wave, and I think that there's no doubt about it. All the breaks seem to go against them, like the non-penalty call. Like you think that was just blatant. Like, but you're going to get no sympathy from Clare over the fact that the whataboutery they'll bring up last year the whole time, like and in the Gaelic grounds against Tip. But look, I think for Wexford, I'd say this year is they hit the minimum target of what they want. I said, getting to an All-Ireland quarter-final, maybe they would have liked to get to a Leinster final. But I think in terms of a base going forward, I think next year for Wexford, maybe winning a Leinster championship, getting to an All-Ireland semi-final, that they'll be looking at that. That has to be the next level, or maybe getting to a final, depending. It's like, I don't think, from what I've seen, the Leinster championship is not, like, I think Kilkenny are the best, but they're not frightening. I think Galway I don't know how Galway have ended up in an All-Ireland semi-final. Like, you think they're there, but I thought Cork left the game behind them last weekend. But Galway are in a great spot now. They're under no pressure against Limerick. They have more or less everybody expects Limerick to win. Henry has them in a great spot now where mentally he can really get at them. And like, if they bring a feverish level of intensity and work rate, I think they'll get after Limerick. I don't think they'll have enough quality to beat them, but I think, but it's like the expectation levels. From talking to a few people at the minor match day, even in Galway, the expectation levels are low now for that semi-final. But that's a great spot to be in.
Yeah, during the game between Cork and Galway, there was one stage I was like, that's the third free that Galway are after getting, where a pup was being sold to the referee. Yeah. But I suppose later on, Daithí Burke was pulled for a foul on Patrick Horgan, and for my money, it was a free the other way around. But if you're Cork and you lose a game by a point, when you've created 49 chances to 34 chances, you'd have to be fairly sickened and realise that the main reason that we lost this game is because of what was going on between our own two ears. Yeah,
there's no doubt about it. Like, you'd say, I couldn't. In fairness, I was watching the game at home, and I thought Joe Canning was very good. He analysed the call and he said he found it hard to understand how Galway were 5 points up at half time, and Cork had owned the ball, had most of the chances, had the better goal chances. Although I feel the Robbie this is where I think Cork have not learned. Like, people said the Robbie O'Flynn goal chance, that was never a goal chance. Robbie O'Flynn has got to realise at that stage, I take my point.
But he had Shane Kingston to his left. Shane, I was watching at the time, like from the near stand, and he had Shane Kingston to his left, a walk-in goal if he gave it to him. I know you're saying the point was there. The goal was 100% there, but not for Robbie O'Flynn to try and take it on himself.
But I would say maybe I'd agree with you. And the decision making was not right. There's two decisions there. One, either pass it to Kingston, or two, if he thinks he's too far, slot it over the bar. But that's where decision. I think I agree with you. I think decision making is still where Cork or Hull. McDara Fitzgibbon has got to carry that ball in another 2 or 3 yards.
Alan Connolly the same.
Alan Connolly's got to carry it in and like nearly carried in and batted past the goalkeeper. Like they've like what Shane Kingston did in the second half. Like I'd say there must be. I'd say I came away from the game thinking like who's needed over that team to get those players to, like, they have all the talent, all the scoring ability. Like it's just not happening for them. For someone, if you're in Cork, you'd be angry to say why are we not ruthless enough? Like why did they not win? It's the same defeat again. It reminded me of 2018 semi-final where they didn't close it out against Limerick. How are they not closing out games?
To me, there's like, we're in year 3 of Act 2 with this management team, and it feels to me as if they're not, and I'm sure they're doing a lot right, but because I've believed in them a good bit, but they don't know what their team is. I mean, they're building their forward unit this year around a player that they dropped off the panel last year. Luke Meade has been one of their most important players. He was left out for a lot of the year, and then now he's in. Maybe there was an injury, but I often saw his name on the match program, but he wasn't being used. Like, you look, like if you have someone who's playing in the full back line, a corner back, normally you like them to be referred to as tidy. But if Damien Cahalane playing in the full back line, and when he's coming out to win a ball in front, he's scooping the ball out 20 yards in front of him rather than trying to, tidily get up to himself. And I think he's probably still good enough to be starting in their team, but I don't know if that's the position. Then you've Rob Downey out wing back, and he's not able to drive out forward with the ball. He ends up getting turned over, and like a lad 6'5" getting sent backwards, he's obviously not in the right position for him either. These are players you can get more out of. And like, again, they just continue to do this thing of stick passing to each other in the centre of the pitch when they're under pressure. And like, if you're getting a stick pass to you when you're running around, generally you have to stop to collect it. Like, a hand pass will always go into the breadbasket, and normally when you're in stride and running. But these Cork players, they keep stick passing to each other so that to stop up and then get smashed by the opposition. They're, I think, the lowest IQ hurling team out there. Like, huge talent, but the way they play just makes me want to smash my head off a wall.
Yeah, and they're so inconsistent. You go, Conor Lehan after the Antrim game was shooing for an All-Star. He was whipped off at half-time. Like Shane Kingston, I think he blows so hot and cold, and I feel he's under pressure with his dad there. I think he's one of their best 6 forwards, and yet I just think maybe his dad being a manager, I think sometimes Cork nearly have too many of the same type of player that they can constantly chop and change when actually it's impacting their confidence. Like if Lehan's looking over his shoulder, if Kingston's constantly looking over, it's like Corrigan is there on the bench, like Alan Cadigan's a player that's been there for years. And look, we saw how good he was coming off the bench. But look, if Cork had got through and got to a semi-final and Cadigan started, there's very likelihood he probably would have struggled and been whipped off at half-time. Like, sometimes the fact that Cork have too much talent and they have a huge pick to choose from, it actually counts.
But to me, it's because the coaching is the problem. Like, you have all this talent and you're not getting, how much are you really getting out of it? So to me, the game plan isn't right, or the coaching isn't right, or the decision making isn't right. So either the players out on the field or the guys who are trying to organize this game plan, there isn't clarity there, or if there isn't clarity, or if there is clarity, they're not following it through, which means to me that you probably need a change.
What to do? Like, I think I've always found it strange how Diarmuid O'Sullivan is part of that management team, and yet there's no bitterness to their defending, or no, particularly from 1 to 9. Like the way that Dahi Burke shoulder and Seamus Hardy, you knew after that hit that Galway weren't going to be beaten. That there's nobody in the Cork team, Cork defence, able to do that. So I did. Maybe it probably was a free. Like it was a challenge that you've got to make to sort of send out a message. And I thought after that, it sent a message to all the rest of the Galway team. I thought Galway were, the last 20 minutes, every time Cork threatened, Galway went up the field and got a score. And I thought as the game went on, Galway were probably more, even though it was a 1-point game, you always felt more confident that Galway were going to see it out some way. You were sure, you were more trustworthy of what they were going to do.
Yeah, well, like for Cork, a lot of time it's tickling, not tackling. And then if you realise that this same team absolutely hammered Tipperary at home turf in Tipperary a few weeks before, or in Thurles before that, that's why I'm very worried about where Tipperary are at. And there needs to be a huge root and branch of what Tipperary are doing at senior level and making sure it's not going to be more of the same again next year, because if it is, that'll be shocking stuff. Do you want to talk about the Camogie, the North Championship, or the ladies football?
We'll stay with Inter-County. We'll stay in that order.
Yeah, okay. So the Tipperary Camogie side still in the hunt after a very good comeback win over Wexford at the weekend. And I suppose the beauty is Cork don't have anything to play for this weekend, so maybe Tipperary can avail of that.
Yeah, look, it was just a great comeback. You said 1-11 to 10 points down, 15 minutes to go. Like you said, God, they're in serious trouble here. Like they're going out of the championship with a whimper. But look, you probably said at the start of the championship, Wexford were probably the weakest of the 6 teams in that group, and you said, God, it'd be a poor way to go out. But look, away from home, rattle off the last 5 points. Like it just shows you, for whatever maybe their struggles are this year, it's not character, it's not spirit within the group. They're all working with the manager. Their fitness levels must be very high to come back to the home straight like that. So you'd have to think maybe. I thought maybe at the start of the year, they started the league very fried. Maybe they started out too well and maybe hit a bit of a skid. So maybe they're starting to come out of it a small bit, and they have it all to do against Cork now. And then the last game away from home, they have to win. Like, even if they win, they mightn't qualify, but they have to go down and win. And look, I suppose they're going in there the best way possible. They're coming off a win, and you think they've played 4 games and they've only lost 1. Like it's just the draws really that have killed them. Like I suppose it's the penal way of where the Camogie Association have you 3 points or a win, and it's very penal when you draw matches as you're dropping.
And there's been lots of draws.
Yeah, lots of draws. Like it's been very competitive, that group. And as you say, Cork are already qualified, but the fact that Cork have already qualified for a semi-final, it means that I think after the Tip game they'll be waiting 3 weeks for the semi. So I think they need to believe the Cork will go strong, because if you're resting girls, that's an extra week. They could be waiting 5 weeks between games with the rest players. So I think Cork will go strong. But look, and Tip's recent record against Cork in championship is terrible. But look, it'd be a great time to turn that over. You think even if Cork put out a full strength team, Tip have more to play for. There'll be more edge about them. Roisin Howard should be back from suspension. Clodagh Quirk has got a 40 minutes into her legs. Caught the van in a big game. That was her best game in terms of open play.
Moving out from full forward was a big move from Bill Mullaney there, and it worked out.
Absolutely too. So look, it's you'd have to think they're probably under pressure to qualify, but look, it's in their. You really think it's in their own hands? I think Waterford are playing. Is it Dublin and Wexford last time out, and Waterford and Clare already out.
Waterford are going to Clare,
and Waterford going to Clare, and Clare already out. And if Dublin playing Wexford, and I think Dublin and Tip are tied on 5 points, and they're tied on score difference. You think Dublin on paper have the easier last game, so even if Tip beat Cork and Dublin win, you probably think Dublin probably will do score difference. So it'd be cruel to think if Tip beat Cork, they could be eliminated on score difference if Dublin win and Waterford win. But look, all Tip can do is go down to Páirc Uí Rinn, win, and see where it takes them. So look, they're 15 minutes to go last Saturday. It looked like they're out of the championship. So look, they still have it. It's still there for them, and it's great to see. And if they could get through and get into a quarter final, they have serious momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. The Tip ladies footballers lost to Dublin, so it's kind of win or bust then against Cavan next day out.
Yeah, sure. Look, next Saturday in Breffni Park is the game. Peter Creedon has said it all along that whatever they did against Mayo and Dublin, realistically, the way they were stationed this year, the amount of players that were down, the amount of young players that were having to blood, it was going to be impossible probably to beat Mayo and beat Dublin. But they were really in that game against Dublin last Sunday against Temple 2. It was only 3 points in it going into the last quarter, but Dublin made 10 changes for that game. They were able to bring the likes of Hannah Tyrrell off the bench and when they were in difficulty and close it out. But look, I think Tip would take an awful lot of good vibes from that, and into the Cavan game, which was the one that we're targeting all along. And I suppose it's the unfortunate nature of the championship, like it's home and away, and then Tipperary have to go in their 2 away games, and they're one of them is away in Cavan. Like it's a big leg up to Cavan, who ran Mayo to a point last weekend. So but even at that, if Tip don't win, they still have a relegation playoff to come. So it's not do or die. But you'd love to think that if Tipperary could get the job done this weekend, to be safe for another year, and hopefully be in a position to get players back next year. Whereas if Tipperary do get relegated back to intermediate, like how it's not a great selling point maybe to get some of the high profile players back, maybe the Aussie Rules players back maybe for next year if it worked out that way.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about the North Championship, which throws in this weekend. I'll just go through the fixtures first. Borrisokane against Ballynahinch, that's in the intermediate quarter-final on Friday. Then the Premier Intermediate O'Reen quarter-final on Saturday, Killadangan against Silvermines, Killadangan B, Newporter against Roscrea, Portrue against Ballina. Then the senior, the Dan Breen quarter-final, Tumivara against Burris, Killarwan against Killadangan, a couple of tasty fixtures there. The North Intermediate semi-final also on Friday, Shannon Rovers against the winners of Borrisokane.
No, that's the following week.
The following week, is it? That's the following week. Okay, we'll stick to this weekend. So, what's jumping off the page for you? It's obviously that double header.
It's great. I suppose I was trying to find out today. I'd say Tip must be one of the first counties to get their club championships underway. I'm not sure whether anybody else is there. And maybe there probably are a few counties maybe starting up this weekend. But it's great to see it. The North Board had a great launch night last weekend of their 3 Premier Championships: the senior, the Premier Intermediate, and the intermediate. So look, it's great to have it. We've been waiting, I suppose, since the 22nd of May when the Tip senior hurlers were out to I suppose get into the teeth of the club campaign, and we're into official split season, and we're into warm weather too. So look, I always thought if in the years Tip maybe have a down year, the clubs will benefit, and this will be it. You're looking at Sunday afternoon. I know there's 2 cracking quarterfinals in the football championship on telly, but like I think the 2 North senior quarterfinals will draw big crowds into Nina. A good double header, Borsley and Toom in Nina 2, and then Killarwan and Killadangan and Nina at 4:00. Like, so 2 tasty games and 2 good rivalry games, really. I think if the North Board could have worked it better in terms of the draws, in terms of quarter, you have 2 local derby games really to kickstart the championship.
Yeah, and certainly Bursley, for first year under Shane O'Neill, he'd be looking to make an impact and get on the winning run straight away. And like, if you're just to talk more broadly, even in terms of the county challengers this year, Thurles obviously won't have Paddy Maher to call on anymore. And then Lockmore are going to be down, the county champions are going to be down both John McGrath and Ed Connolly. So I'd say the likes of Burris and a few more are going to feel like this thing is there.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And to say they made the pairings for the first round of fixtures in the county championship last night, and it's Burris Lee, Thurles Sarsfield's first round, like, and Lockmore Killadangan first round. Like, it's mouth-watering really what's coming. Like, but coming back to Burris Lee, yeah, it's going to be fascinating. Like, that 5 great years under Johnny Kelly, 2 North championships, 1 county championship, another county final appearance, and 1 Munster club one. Like, they're going back to 87, really unprecedented era of success for Burris Lee. And now they're bringing in a new coach, Shane O'Neill, former Galway manager, former Napirsig manager, John Fitzgerald coming with him as coach. Be interesting to see the style of play they bring to Burris Lee. Like, Johnny Kelly.
Oh, it'll be different. It'll be very different from Johnny Kelly.
Well spoken of, brilliant. Like, and even talking to Barry Heffernan last Sunday, he's very impressed with Johnny Kelly. He's in coaching Nina Rogue this year under manager Noel Maloney. But like the style of play Burris Lee played on their last week was very, very traditional. Really, it wasn't overly tactical. Really, said the team were well drilled, well motivated. They got the better out of themselves. I'm fascinated to see if Shane and John bring them to another level. Will they be using the ball better? I know you always got frustrated by them being overly direct. It'll be interesting to see whether that changes now, and whether they play to the strengths maybe of the Eddie Ryans and the JD Devaney's maybe rather than the Niall Kennys, and Conor Kenny, who we all knew were very, very strong guys in the air, Jerry Kelly as well, whether there's a sort of happy medium now working the ball through the lines.
Yeah, well, I definitely found that when Shane O'Neill was over in the Piercing, they did have a great balance, and that was during the maybe 3 or 4 year spell where they were at the very height of what they were doing. I've only seen Bursley properly play once this year, and that was against Thurles Sarsfield. It's funny you should mention their county parent in a league match in the Sarsfields pitch just there across from the race course a while back, and Jerry Kelly put up a big score that day. I know that, and sorry, Billy McCarthy as well. He scored, I think, 1-2, including a goal into the top corner. He looked like he was in great shape. But yeah, I do expect Spurs to be a little bit different. But there's probably going to be teething problems with it too. It's probably not going to all happen in one go. And I suppose they put up a big score against Coolderry in a challenge match there the other night, which is obviously a good sign. What way are you expecting it to go? Puck of a ball, really.
I think Bursley are favourites, but like Tumivara are they're very. You think they're not. They don't have intercounty. Like I said, it's strange that Tumivara don't have a senior intercounty panelist. Like, but they're a very, very even team. Like Jason Ryan, Mark McCarthy, Kevin McCarthy, Josh McCarthy. Like they're a very, very even team. Like Luke Ryan, Darren. They're Kenny. They're a very, very even team. Like, and like they have new management in this year. I think it's Aaron Delaney, Aaron Considine in from Clare. Very, very high, well thought of coach too. Like they were very disappointing. Actually, like they lost heavily in the North quarter final to a depleted Killadangan team last year, and then they in the county championship they won their first 2 games against Holy Cross and Clonolty, and all they needed to do in the last round against Mullinahone was to draw, or even a narrow loss would could have got them through. And what happened? They were bet out the gate, and they ended up going from being a county quarter finalist to not even qualifying out of the group. So I think I'd be expecting I don't know. Someone's telling me Tumivara could sneak this, but Tumivara a very, very good league as well. Lost the semi-final to Clonolty. I know Bursley got to the semi-final too, but Tumivara have had all their players together all year. Like they've had no distractions. Bursley have to bring back the likes of Eddie Ryan, Dan McCormick, who were maybe county tied for a lot of campaign. I don't know. Bursley are favourites, but Jesus, I wouldn't be surprised if Tumivara snuck this. As you say, there could be teething problems of Bursley getting used to their style of play. I think Bursley might sneak above Tum win it. I wouldn't be at all surprised.
Oh, build up to him. That's what I'd say anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other one then, Killarwan and Killadangan. Geez, there's lots of injuries that are going to surely have some sort of an effect on this game.
Yeah, no, I think you would say it's a repeat of last year's final. And you'd say on the bait, like you would say, if every team had everyone, you say Killadangan would be favourites. But Killadangan they're in a bad way. Like Willie Connors is only back doing straight line running after rupturing his Achilles earlier on in the year. I think they're hopeful of having him for the group stages of the county championship starting in about a month's time. Dick David Sweeney had awful hamstring trouble last year. He's done very, very little this year. And then add to that, they have 3 guys gone on J1s, Dara Flannery, Decky McGrath, and Billy Seymour. So potentially they could be down 3 of their starting defenders from last year. Like I know, I suppose the offshoot of that is that Killadangan second team are Premier Intermediate, so their replacements are going to be at a decent level, but they're going to be lost an awful lot of experience, which is a great opportunity to maybe bring through some young lads from that second team. Like I'd be interested to see. It's hard to know with Killadangan. Like it's just their league form was patchy. Like, but they do have depth, but like they're losing an awful lot of experience. Like, and then it's a massive opportunity for the likes of Killarwan maybe to get off to a winning start. A lot like Tumivara. I would have said that they would have had a few inter-county players there, but they're very grounded. I would have thought Killarwan were maybe a surprise package last year. I thought they pudged a little bit above their weight. Now we know about them. Got to an North final, played pretty well against Lockmore in that county quarter final. We've just had a bad first half for the maybe defensively. They were a bit naive. I think they'll be an awful lot better for that this year. Niall O'Mara had a year off from the county. I think he'll be fresh and he'll be focused. Craig Morgan's had a great year with Tip. Cian Darcy was in with Tip, so like you think his strength and condition levels, and he'll be bringing a lot of that experience back in there. Aaron Morgan will be a year older. Cian O'Kelly will be a year older. I think Killerwan are my fancies to win an Art Championship this year. I just think they're a very, very even, solid team. Knowing me, they'll probably Killarney and it'll shock them this weekend that we put out in their ear. But they're my favourites for this year's North Championship. I think the way the situation Killarney are in, it's a great opportunity for Killerwan to get through this round and get into a semi-final.
Well, talent is rarely the issue with Killerwan anyway, so they should never be all that far away. There is the prospect that we could end up with penalties in some of these games because they are finished on the day. That'd add a nice bit of drama, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And there, we said Bursley have seen it, and a couple of years ago in a county quarterfinal. So I can say they give, particularly the Borris-Toon game, like that's hard to call. You know so well that maybe the rivalry between Killarney and Killerwan will probably draw the very, very best out of Killarney, and say they'll have enough talent to make sure that the guys that are missing, they'll still be very, very competitive. I say we saw last year when they were down a couple of boys with COVID, they still come out and destroyed Killarney, but I don't know. I just think maybe are they losing too many at the one go? That's my fear. And that maybe they could be focusing on the county championship group. And again, they have new management too, like Dan Hackett is in there, Sean O'Mara, George Hannigan. I know they were hoping to have Sean Tracy as part of the management team, but I assume he's going to be all in with Clare until he's finished. So and you just see the way Clare are playing. I know Sean is so highly regarded. Even with Killarney, I think it was the one thing they did not want to lose. When Brian Lawler was maybe moving on, that Sean Tracy was the one that they were really hoping to hold on to, and like they have, but I assume he hasn't been involved in Killarney very, very much this year.
Yeah, saw a good clip of him coming out with the ball. This is floating around on Twitter at the moment, and DJ Carey comes in with a loose hurley across him, catches Tracy, and Tracy flicks back across the head with the hurley, and it's only a yellow card. Of course, these days be far more. Anything else you want to touch on? Maybe what's in the Nina Guardian this week?
I said we've done good previews on the senior, like the Premier Intermediate on Saturday with the double header, Killarney against Silvermines. You probably fancy Silvermines there because it's Killarney second team, and maybe there will be some guys maybe being held back for Killarney to play on Sunday. Newport against Roscrea. Interesting to see how Roscrea go this year. Like last year was the first time they were ever relegated out of senior hurling. So psychologically, how to deal with that. I think talent-wise, I think they're the favourites to win the Premier Intermediate. Not only the North, but in the county. So Liam England has gone in there. He guided Mine Temple 2 to the Intermediate Championship last year. So, if they can get themselves organised, they have loads of talent there. I think they'll be good and too good for Newport, who are going into a championship without Conor O'Mahony, probably for the first time in probably to go to 20 years. So he's gone stepping away from their first team. He's gone back playing junior. Sean O'Brien is not there. He'd be a big loss. He's travelling. So, and then Portrue Ballina, a local derby with a bit of spice. So that'll be a tasty game in Toom. So, and then you have the start of the intermediate on Friday night. So, in fairness, I give great credit to Northport. They have a weekend pass, €20, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You could get 5 games for the weekend for 20 quid. I think it's a 10er in single, 15 in for double header if you're not going to the mall. So look, great credit to them there in terms of making it affordable for people. I suppose just to get the championship up and running, like we've been saying for years, the club is losing out in the summer. Now is the time for maybe the clubs to take advantage of the fact that Tip are out early. This is not going to be always the way. We're hoping this day next year that instead of the North Championship starting this weekend, Tipperary preparing for All-Ireland semi-final or something and maybe the clubs will have to wait their turn. So look, it's time for the clubs to strike while they have the upper hand at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's it from today. This week's episode of Tippcast. We'll be back again next week. Don't forget to pick up a copy of the Nina Guardian. We'll chat to you then, Shane.
Thanks, man. See you next week.